Well, hey, good morning. Welcome to Wake Up with me, Sonia Poulton. It's going to be one of those weeks. Yes, indeed it is. It's Monday, the 15th of December, GMT. Thank you for being here. And it's a bit nippy, but that's fine because I'm all in my Christmas jumper. How are you? It is beginning to look a lot like Christmas, isn't it? Is it where you are? Hi, all lovely people. Welcome to the show that knows you're not extra. People who say that to you are just basic. So keep shining, Buttercup. Yes, indeed. Thank you for being here. Wake Up, of course, is on Mondays and Fridays. Monday is our news show. Friday is our investigation show. And we are here twice a week on YouTube, on Rumble, on X, on Spotify. Grand risings to you, Ross. How are you? Good morning, Jeannie and Armand and Cavan and Reba and Marcuson and Lorraine and Catherine and Paul. Thank you for the early super chat. And thank you, Colin. And good morning, Colin, rather. And good morning, Merv and Cavan and KR and you name it. And Aurora and Tanya and Shug. And hello, Or and June. Good morning, Or. What is on today's show? We'll be joined shortly by climate realist Paul Burgess on the outrageous campaign to phase out open fires. You know I'm not having that. I love me my open fire. Oh, yes, indeed I do. And also, we'll be talking to Sukhdev Reel and possibly her daughter Tish as well. Sukhdev's son, Ricky Reel, was murdered and the police spied on the grieving mum and the grieving family instead of actually helping them. And Sukhdev has been giving a testimony at the undercover policing inquiry recently, and she'll be joining us to talk about it. We'll also be joined by Oliver Cowmeadow, boss of the International Macrobiotic School. He'll be talking to us about the wealth of health and the importance of being in tune with nature. And I know that my viewers understand these things. Yes, you do. And what else is coming up? Well, let's see. We're going to be talking Erica Kirk, Candice Owen, Bondi Beach shooting, the FLUNAMI that is coming down on our children, i.e. kids' flu jabs flooding into schools. Plus, I'll be doing a very brief review of the protests over the weekend. A little comment on Jerry McCann's never-ending crusade to silence the press. We'll be getting to your shouts. And this week, we will be continuing our Christmas giveaways with multiple prizes. That's right, multiple prizes for our dear viewers. We are not messing around. No, we are not. And we'll end on a viewer email, Annette from Bristol. She is talking about the stress and over-consumerism of Christmas. And she wants to know how to regain the joy of the season as she experienced as a child. I wonder sometimes whether we really did experience that joy in that same way as we thought we did. But always looking back is always kind of, it gives a glow to it, doesn't it? Unless it was so heinously bad. So also to say, John Curtin of Camp Beagle was due to join us last week. Do you remember last Monday and he didn't show up? Well, that's because he picked up the link from me at 9:45 a.m. And by 9:55 a.m., 5 minutes before he was due on Wake Up, the police turned up at the protest site. Make of that what you will. We'll get John on again soon, I promise. So what is coming up this week? Well, Rishi Sunak will be giving evidence at the COVID-19 inquiry. Do you cast your memory back? Remember when he came out, they were calling him Dishy Rishi. There was this whole big fandom around him before he became prime minister because he was throwing out taxpayer money, wasn't he, on furlough? And he was essentially buying the silence and complicity of people. That was what was happening. So he'll be testifying at the COVID-19 inquiry. Expect to hear no great revelations. It's all about solidifying a narrative, as we know. And today, sentencing begins for Paul Doyle over the Liverpool Victory Parade crash and should conclude tomorrow. So that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. And also this week on Wednesday, there's going to be a Supreme Court ruling on the neither confirm nor deny policy that could lead to the naming of Stakeknife. Now, if you're not familiar with this, essentially countless people provided intelligence to help the British state during the Troubles in Northern Ireland, 1968 to 1998. And Agent Stakeknife was the best known of the lot. He had a reputation for having been involved in the most violent offences as a member of the IRA, while simultaneously providing the British Army with intelligence. So sounds like a proper nice one, right? And Agent Stakeknife's alleged identity was first made public in 2003. It was claimed it was a man called Freddie Scapatici. And sounds very Irish. And so the final report of this lengthy independent investigation into this case is now calling for the UK government to confirm Stakeknife's identity. Its Operation Canova was set up by the police service of Northern Ireland and found that Stakeknife was named as a suspect in dozens of crimes, including murders. He denied it up until his death in 2023. But Scapatici is widely believed to have provided intelligence, as I say, to the British Army from the late 1970s into the 1990s. And throughout this time, he was also an active member of the IRA, something his handlers in the British Army, the people he reported to, were well aware of. So that's interesting development there. This week on Wednesday, there will be a protest outside the Department of Health and Social Care, which is at 39 Victoria Street, London, SW1HOEU. It is to stop the puberty blockers trial. If you remember, they've done something of a bait and switch in the UK. They were like, well, the health secretary was treating, well, we're going to stop puberty blockers because there really isn't enough data on it. But now he has got behind an experimental trial on young people as young as 11 for puberty blockers. And so this protest is to stop the trial, and I fully support it. The other thing that was supposed to be in Parliament today, but has actually been adjourned, is the sudden cardiac death in young people. Chris Vince, Labour Co-op, is leading it for Harlow, and that has now been adjourned. And I wonder why it's been adjourned, and what an interesting debate as well. And I wonder whether they will link it up with you know what. So we shall see. We shall see. Good morning, all people arriving in the chat. How are you all? Good morning. I like Christmas early, says Crafty Kim, as I love making decorations, still making them. That's right. Stephen says experimenting on children is pure evil. Absolutely. No argument here, Stephen. Saturday saw a number of protests taking place, of course. There was Tommy Robinson, and they are trying to refashion him as something from some kind of 70s Christmas throwback. But he led a carol concert to put the Christ back into Christmas on Saturday. Absolute huge, massive difference in figures to his Unite the Kingdom rally in September. The Metropolitan Police estimated in September he had in excess of 100,000, and he certainly did, because I saw the aerial photos. And this weekend, they estimate the figure around 1,000. And I don't think it was many more than that. I don't think that they're underestimating. And it's the reality is that I think this is some kind of backlash to do with what went on, to do with Tommy Robinson and Israel recently. And people are not having it. Robinson thought getting Elon Musk backing was going to take him higher up the food chain, but alas, no. And this recent conversion to Christianity is not convincing many people. And Church of England came out. They're very, very concerned about the whole kind of Christianity and patriotism all being wrapped up into one big bowl. And they're not having it. They're not impressed with it at all. At the same time, of course, the digital ID protest took place as well, again led by Fiona Rose Diamond, and again, as with Tommy Robinson, not as many as the previous march. And it could well be that people are getting protest fatigue, or it could just be because it's coming up to Christmas and people can't be bothered. I mean, that is also a reality of protesting, but not in Crowborough. In Crowborough, they are out in force every Sunday, 6 Sunday in a row, to protest against 600 migrants moving into army barracks. Around 100 are believed to soon be moving in from another camp in Kent, which is due to close. The Napier Barracks in Folkestone, Kent, is closing this Friday, with around 100 migrants leaving and being shipped off to Crowborough, some 50 miles away. Families were carrying signs saying, "We're not racist, just afraid, and protect our women and girls." And really, government is absolutely egregious and remiss in its duty here, because many of these people indeed are not racist at all. They are just genuinely concerned about what it means to have well, essentially undocumented people, undocumented men of fighting age, which is the common refrain, but that is the reality. These are not families. These are undocumented men who are being put up in army barracks, and it completely plays into the whole idea that this is an army being formed against the English and against the British. But I don't know. Crowborough Town Councillor Peter Buckless said the Home Office is playing fast and loose with us all. They think they can do whatever they want. It's not right. And before I bring in my first guest, have to just reflect. I know the news is still coming out about Bondi Beach. Iconic Bondi Beach. Yesterday, of course, on December the 14th, Bondi Beach was the site of a shooting during an event marking the first day of Hanukkah. At least 15 people were killed, including a child and one of the gunmen, with a further 38 people injured and taken to hospitals across Sydney. The attack occurred around 6:45 p.m. local time at Archer Park. Two gunmen opened fire on the crowd from a nearby footbridge. Turned out to be a father and son, aged 50 and 24 years old. The father is dead. The son has survived. And we are told that they are Sajid Akram, 50, and his son Naveed, 24. And police had earlier confirmed the identity of both men. But, you know, the thing is, we cannot afford to fully and wholeheartedly take on board the narrative that mainstream media sell us. We should surely have learnt that, if not for at least the last 2-3 decades, certainly over the last 5 years. So we have to be incredibly careful about this story because, of course, it plays into a number of agendas. And what you now have is the Australian PM Anthony Albanese calling for stricter gun control. Reminds me of our own tragedy, the Dunblane shooting that led to gun control in the UK, stricter gun control in the UK. And I thought it was quite interesting that a survivor of Bondi Beach shooting was also in Israel during the October 7th attack. Arsen Astrovsky, he emigrated to Sydney, studied law, emigrated to Israel in 2012, served as a CEO of International Legal Forum, a global network of over 4,000 activists and attorneys. And as I say, he was also said to be in Israel during the October 7th attack and considers himself an October 7th survivor. And he headed back to Australia to head up a Jewish council. And Juliet said it's not the gun, but the immigrants. And Markson said, for sure, Sonia, don't trust MSM. Shinri saw some strange footage shot by French lads. Well, there's important questions to ask, and we must always ask them. Always ask them. And that is, when it comes to attacks like this, they immediately frame it as a terrorist attack before all the facts are known. That happens without question immediately, but not others. Always when it's an anti-Semitism attack, it's immediately framed as terrorism. Now, I'm not saying it's not. I don't know. I wasn't there. I just know that we have to be incredibly careful what we believe from mainstream media because there are always agendas at work. And I think that we just have to be careful. Some of it seems, some of the narrative seems a bit preordained. And of course, what's happened is this incredible fear has whipped around the world. And there has now in Jewish communities in England, for example, there has been a stronger police presence around Jewish festivities this weekend. Summer breeze, dreadful on a beach. Yes, absolutely. And but what's that? Let me just read that. Emma says, false flags everywhere. And we must be careful. We must absolutely be careful. And because I think anybody now who wholesale takes what MSM have to tell us about anything is foolish. Right. Going to bring in my first guest in a couple of minutes. But first of all, competition. First competition, so many entries for Pixie Willoughby's wonderful painting, wonderful painting. And dear Emily Hawkins is the winner. She's already received it. She's full of joy. And here it is. Wonderful. And she said, Emily said, it's been a hard year, but things are brighter around here. And she said she will treasure this picture. I'm thrilled for you. And also Rebecca Farmer. Rebecca's animal communication session was a roaring success too. I expected it to be less so, but no, turns out you peeps out there love that stuff too, which is good because stay tuned and I'll be bringing you more spiritual gifts towards the end of the show, including to do with animals. Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Rebecca and Pixie. You are both stars. And the winner of of Rebecca's animal communication is Danny Oates. Congratulations, Danny. So let's start today's giveaway. Indeed, we have 5 copies, children. If I can find it, here it is. 5 copies of a book generously donated by author and artist Sean Parker, written between 2018 and 2025. This is a book of poetry, snapshots of the 21st century British justice system in action. It's called Panopticon. It refers to architect and prison reformer Sir Jeremy Bentham's triangular seal design. And there is a reference here as well to Michael Foucault. I never pronounced that name right, so please forgive me. His writings on his or her, forgive me, but writings on power dynamics within the justice system. So it's all about the justice system. And Sean has very, very kindly given us 5 copies. And if you would like to be in with a chance of winning one of these copies, write to me at soniapoulton@sky.com by 6 p.m. Tuesday, GMT, and put in the subject book. And the first 5 randomly selected will receive a copy of this book, even if I've made an absolute pig's ear of the pronunciations of the people involved and who it's inspired by. But thank you, Sean. We very much appreciate that. Right. I want to bring in my first guest because he and I have something in common, and that is we love our open fires. Don't we, Paul? We love our open fires.
Yes, we do. We do love our open fires. And by the way, since you've asked me to come on, I've done some research on it to give you some little bits of evidence which may be interesting. Yeah?
Go for it. Well, everybody, if you're not familiar, and why ever not, this is climate realist Paul Burgess. Paul has joined us on a number of occasions to absolutely debunk what is largely a climate change hoax. And today will be no different. So, Paul, take it away.
Okay. Well, I looked at London, the whole of London. And the wood stoves in London, and that's including open fires, add between 1.5 and 2 millionths of a gram per cubic meter of small particulates. Yes. So all that matters here, forget the units. All that matters is the number 1.5. But of open wood fires, we're at about 0.5 millionth of a particulate per cubic meter. A cubic meter is an enormous area. And to give you some example of that and what the effect would be, then if you, the tube, by the way, in London, which is interesting, has round about, well, it depends where you are on the tube and which tube line. But if you walk into a tube station, yeah, in the first 2 minutes, you'd have passed the amount of particulates you breathe in from all the open fires in London.
Oh, well, that's interesting. That's very interesting because obviously the drive behind this campaign, and where would we be without showing a glorious open fire there on the screen,
That's
which
right.
is my open fire, I should say. And but so the drive for this campaign is that the problem is we are not going to meet clean air targets in England, in the UK, if we carry on having open fires and wood burning stoves. But you've just shot that down right from the get-go, saying we are more in danger of entering a tube station than
after 2 minutes.
After a couple. That's astonishing stuff. Why don't we hear more of that? Why?
Well, because it's not to do with clean air. Look, I also looked up which cities, which countries, or which cities in the countries meet clean air standards from the World Health Organization, and there's only 7 of them, and they're places like Grenada in the Caribbean. So every single developed country, Australia and New Zealand are in this as well, actually, as countries. But there aren't basically, we all live well above the World Health Organization standards. I mean, on roads, they're just the particulates from tires and things. Yes. So when you choose to live in a city or near a city, you're going to be in higher levels. So it has to be proportional. And if you really wanted to be concerned, for example, about clean air in London, you would do something about the tubes. But that's extremely expensive, I would imagine, to do.
Right.
And then at what level do they become a health risk? Well, I'm not going to give any medical advice on this because I'm not into that. Right. But I can tell you that just in the open air, I'll give you the levels. In London, you're about 11 or 12 units if you're walking in London. And so you'd make very, very, very little difference if you had open, with the open fires. But in the open countryside, you could be at 8. Are you with me?
Yes.
So we're talking about an extra 4 or 5 millionth of a gram. By the way, it's a millionth of a gram. So 4 or 5 billionths of a gram per cubic meter. We're talking about tiny things.
Break it down, though. Break it down for me so I can really understand it. What is that in terms of a danger level?
Well, they say that anything is dangerous. That's why when I start to look at the medical side of this, because I did the research yesterday for you, when I start to look at the medical side, I'm not really qualified to give medical opinions. But basically, well, what level, I was asking, does it become dangerous? And they wouldn't answer. Basically, they're saying any level. It'd be better off without it. Doesn't exist anywhere. And maybe it exists in the North Pole, or maybe it exists in the South Pole. Yeah.
Right.
But what they're driving for is not to do with clean air. It's really not. It's the same as ULEZ and everything. It's not to do with that. It's really to do with control. And by the way, let's look at CO2 because I've got some really interesting stuff on that.
Go for it.
I like more CO2, right? So I like open fires because it gives CO2, but nothing like as much as Drax Power Station, the biofuel power station. Now, if you take all the London stoves, these are the wood-burning stoves, and the open fires, yes, you're looking at 200 times more than the whole of London is emitted by Drax Power Station in terms of allowing the collection of the wood all the way through. If you just take the burning, it's around about 120, 150 times the whole of London. Yeah. So, if you're really interested in clean air, you wouldn't be promoting something like Drax, which cost us around about 900 million a year subsidy to do. So we're paying 900 million pound a year to collect wood from the other side of the world, heat it and make it into pellets and things with fossil fuels, transport it on trucks, trains and boats, big ships, all the way to the UK to burn it. Yes, that's what we're doing. And that's costing a subsidy of over 900 million a year at the moment.
Absolutely insane. And of course, it would be completely remiss of us not to look at the people who are at the heart of all of this. There's Ed Miliband, of course. He has the role in government. But also, in terms of London, Sadiq Khan is one of the biggest eco-fascists that I've ever encountered, I think. He's obviously the co-chair of C40 Cities. And he's the one who extended ULEZ. Boris Johnson started it, but Sadiq Khan extended it. And with very, very shaky data indeed. I mean, they kept going back and getting more hits at the pie to try and get the data that they wanted. Yeah. They've ended up using the death of one child in order to be able to push it through.
I know that.
Really cynical stuff, Paul. Horrible stuff.
I've got some news and some work I've just done as well, actually. I've managed, I'm publishing a paper soon, and I've managed to completely explain since climate alarmism really got going. So I've taken a period from 1983 to today.
Wow.
And I can now explain every single temperature movement, every single one, and including all the peaks like 23, completely explicable, 2016 or 1998. But not just that, the leveling out after 2000 of the temperatures. Everything's explained in this paper. And all it does is it takes all the ocean pulses from the ocean warms up and cools down all over the world. And I take those pulses, and those pulses of heat. I mean, when you think about it, to heat the ocean up from the equator right up to the Arctic on a 30-year cycle. So we have 30 years or so of warm, we have 30 years of cool. When that warm comes, it drives the clouds away a bit, yeah? And clouds, even 2 or 3% of clouds would be the change, would be the whole of the warming since the Little Ice Age, almost. So clouds are super sensitive, they're our control. And so what the warming does of the oceans is it drives the clouds away. And I've done this paper, and I couldn't believe it. When I saw the result of the work, it just fitted. And well, that's not normal in science, So I've got, I think, 18 or 20 appendices to the paper, doing every possible physical check to validate it. And it's valid. So to me, it's the most important, it's devastating work. And I'm making a video at the moment about it and publishing the paper. Now, when I publish the paper, I don't publish it for academia, but I've given it to some professionals to review, obviously. But I don't publish it for that. I publish it for the public So right throughout the paper, I do it in layman's terms. I do layman's, explain, this is what we're going to do. Here's the science. By the way, in plain English, this is what it says. All the way through. So a layman can just read the blue bits that do different colours, just read the blue bits and you'll understand the whole paper.
Well,
so
we need to. We're constantly, they try and blind us with science, but it's kind of faux science, obviously. But
Correct.
do you ever submit any of this to the government? I mean, it should land in...
You must be joking.
No,
I wish I could. I really wish I could. It's not science, you see. When you don't have science unless you have skepticism and debate. No one debates me. Even last time I was on your show, by the way, with my views on chemtrails.
I remember. I do remember. So I want to just pick up on this issue of control that you talk about. I mean, oftentimes there are multi-agendas, aren't there, when they want to kind of enforce an action like this. And it feels like they're trying to deplete society of everything that makes us feel whole and warm, like not even necessarily in a physical sense, but it's part of our historic ancestry to gather around a fire. It was about socializing. We feel it on a real primal level. I certainly do, and I love it and I really appreciate it. And because I live in the area that I do, have to have all this eco coal and everything, but at least we can still have an open fire. But do you think it is only about control, or are there other issues as well here?
No, I think you said it seems like they're trying to do this to us. I disagree slightly, because they are trying to do this to us. I take the seams out of your point. They are trying to control us. And when you've got people who won't debate you, when you've got people who, I mean, every time I've been on television, even when I go to like the Isle of Man I've helped, and Jersey I've helped, and people like that have been to other countries to help as well. And the government, the official thing, just refuses. Absolutely refuses. In the Isle of Man, as an example, they took percentages of 3 years of what they called green electricity and said, oh, demand's increasing. But the amount each year was getting less. So they had a higher percentage of a lesser amount, which meant it wasn't increasing. Yeah. So if I take 10% of 100, that's 10. But if I now take 15% of 50, that's less than 10. Are you with me? And they looked at the percentages and said it's increasing. So I pointed this out in a video that your people in Parliament have even got that wrong. Yeah, on a simple that, three numbers basically, and they repeated it in Parliament last week. They repeated the lie, even though I made a video, and I'm making the Isle of Man residents very aware of all this, of course. And that's what it's like all the way I meet nothing else but non-scientists, because unless you're willing to take skepticism, and of course many scientists have been banned because if they speak the truth, their career's gone. And I feel sorry for them, because they've got mortgages and children.
Absolutely. So a lot of people are compromised because of those reasons, and that goes obviously throughout society. But it's really, and the thing is, science should be tested. As you said, that's the whole point about it, is science is never really fixed until it's fixed. That's the reality. There's always something that
there's a very prestigious organization called the CO2 Coalition in America.
Yes.
And it's got William Harper, Professor William Harper, Princeton University, he's famous. And it's also got people like John Clauser, the Nobel Prize winner for physics in. And I was invited recently. I've joined, actually. I'm very honored by it. And so I've got some of those people actually reviewing my paper now. But I will be getting this video out in the next week, and because it's as simple as this, I've now been able to explain everything in terms of temperature, and CO2 is part of it. Don't get me wrong. Let me tell you something that people don't know. The scientists on the alarmist side and the realist side, that's my side, the realist, we all agree on what CO2 does. We all agree that if you double CO2 now from, say, 400 roughly to 800 parts per million, you'll increase temperatures by, you'll have an effect of increasing temperatures by 1 degree in 175 years. So that's not disputed. And people are confused. They think we disagree about CO2. We don't. We take the William Harper, the professor I just mentioned, he did it. Everyone agrees. What they say is that 1 degree of warming, and it doesn't matter what caused it, causes more warming. And each warming causes more warming. It's called feedback. Positive feedback, and that's where we disagree. And my paper actually, by accident, I only works if you have no feedback. So it also shows there's no feedback. So I'm sorry for getting technical.
No. I get you. They're saying in the comments, at least one comment I've just seen, Lenticular Cloud said the fact that they're misleading Parliament needs calling out. So that alone, we should, either you or I or somebody should be informing them that they are repeating inaccurate information. No?
Well, do you know what they're doing? They're actually in North Wales. They come on. Ed Miliband comes on. I'll tell you this very simple story. Ed Miliband comes on recently and says, in North Wales and Northwest, we're going to have this CO2 burial under the sea. Yeah, CO2 burial under the sea, and it's creating 800 jobs, and it's costing us, I looked up, over 800 million a year, which is £1 million subsidy per job, including the office cleaner or the chief exec. Yeah. £1 million per person. So how much do we bury? We bury a lot. We bury 4.5 million tons a year if it works. It's never worked anywhere else, but if it works. Do you know how long that takes for the rest of the world to fill in? 39.5 hours. So we're spending, for you public there, we're spending 800 million a year, actually slightly over that. We're spending slightly over 800 million a year to make a hole, put the stuff in, and the world fills that hole back in 39.5 hours, and he calls that creating jobs.
Dear Lord, it's appalling.
That's how bad this is. And nobody challenges it.
It's a scandal. Paul, it is a scandal. Let me read you this. Boaty says, my log burner is my main source of heat. Think it's really important we have different sources of energy. And I agree. I think it is absolutely vital. And the idea, of course, is to dwindle us down to almost nothing. So then we become completely reliant on, reliant and completely controlled.
That's
Got
all
you.
It's about.
Absolutely. Paul, thank you for joining us this morning.
That's okay.
I think it would be awful if I didn't end with this, show a little bit. I get so much joy from those flames. I really
it's natural. It's part of our evolution.
It really is. I can stare into flames for hours, Paul. It's part of my meditation. Take good care of yourself. Merry Christmas to you, Paul Burgess.
Merry Christmas to everyone. Bye.
Lovely to have him with us. Lovely. Bye. Thank you, Paul. Very much appreciate that. Yes, Paul and I, we might not always agree on politics, and certainly we don't, but we do agree on an open fire. The government don't want facts. It proves they have ulterior motives, says Cadders. I hear you. I want to go immediately to my next guest. Really important. This is a story that I've covered before, and actually one of the few stories that made me cry live on air. And I already feel emotional about it. We live down the road from where this happened. We live in Teddington. This happened in Kingston. And it actually happened in October 1997. And it was a month after my daughter was born. I see lots of similarities. My daughter, of course, is mixed race. I've talked about this before, and we're dealing with a racist murder here. So let us bring in the people at the heart of this incredibly painful and powerful story. We are joined by Sukhdev Reel. Hello, Sukhdev. Can you see me? I haven't got an image for you there, which is odd. And I've got Tish, I think. Hello, Tish.
There
you go. I think your mum's just gone off the screen for a second. I'm sure she'll be back with us. You are, of course, Tish Reel. You're a family law solicitor, aren't you? And I'm assuming Ricky's sister.
I am, yeah. I'm his youngest sister.
I'm sure your mum will be back with us soon. I'll just explain to our viewers, for those who are unfamiliar, in October 1997, your brother Ricky Reel, 20 years old, went for a night out with his friends in Kingston, which is to the southwest of London, Greater London. He and his friends were subject to a racially motivated attack, and Ricky sadly never returned home. His body was found 7 days later. Now, if this was not enough for one family to cope with, here's Sukhdev. If this was not enough for one family to cope with, the people who were supposed to assist them, the Metropolitan Police, not only failed to help this family in the search for their son and their brother, but turned their suspicions onto spying on the Reel family instead. And Sukhdev, of course, lovely to have you with us. I always wish it were under different circumstances. You've campaigned long and hard for justice for your son, and you recently testified at the Undercover Policing Inquiry. How are you today, Sukhdev?
Still broken, but fighting, staying strong for my son to get justice. We gave evidence at the Undercover Police Spying Inquiry on the 26th of November, and where we discovered to our horror that they had about 40 plus reports on our family about what they were doing. They were watching our movements, exactly following me everywhere. And when we met them first, they said, don't worry, it's only collateral damage. You and your family and the Justice Campaign is not directly targeted. So like fools, we believed them. And then later, years later, we received reports where it clearly shows that we were targeted. Tish, you want to say something about targeting?
Yes, Tish, jump in whenever you want to. Let me just say this first of all. I watched your testimony at the inquiry. So powerful, incredibly powerful. And I was with you all the way. Your expression of grief, it was all coming out decades later because you've been living under this mountain. Tish, what would you like to add here? Because just to give people background information, and that is, at least one of these officers pretended to be an ally of yours in your campaign against anti-racism, but was in fact spying on you. And you were alone with this officer, Sukhdev, as well. Tish, what would you like to add here?
I think I think what's really important here, and sorry, I'm slightly losing my voice actually, so I'll try to try to do this.
'Tis the season.
It is, absolutely. I think what's important to remember is the context. So Ricky was murdered in 1997, and less than 12 months after his death, the spying started. And it was at a time when we were at our lowest ebb, like you say. We were and we were begging the police to use their resources to find Ricky. And we were often told, we don't have the resources to undertake this line of inquiry, that line of inquiry. The river search, which found Ricky within 4 minutes, took 7 days to organise, even though that was the only part of Kingston we couldn't search ourselves because we were told there wasn't enough resources to do it. So we had to wait 7 days for that. So we were begging for them to use resources, find Ricky, follow up leads, find CCTV. They didn't. We as the family walked the streets, finding the CCTV, finding the witnesses, doing all the investigatory work ourselves. And all the while, the resources were being used to target us, to spy on what we were doing. And it transpires the reason that was happening is because we were a threat to the police. Ricky's case came just after Stephen Lawrence, and
That's
the police
right.
would have everybody believe that what went wrong in that case, the institution.
Yeah, they didn't want, just cut off slightly there, but they didn't want us to know and realize that the institution, the Metropolitan Police, was institutionally racist, which is what they discovered anyway. I'm sure Tish will be back shortly, Sukhdev, don't worry.
Yeah.
And yes, go on.
There was racism involved from day one when we went to report it, and we were told that Asian families force their children to get married against their wishes, and you may have done that. And then
they also said that he may be gay, that he may have gone off with another woman that you wouldn't appreciate. So immediately they were tarring you with these stereotypes of Asian families. Hello, Tish. Welcome back.
Hi,
we just got on to the point. No, not at all. Your mum was just saying about how it was a racist investigation from the start. It was immediately racism, and it was, you'd just gone off on the point of where it was Stephen Lawrence, and actually what they eventually found with the McPherson report was that the Metropolitan Police was institutionally racist, and you were on the receiving end of that. Tish, do you want to pick up where you left off?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was racism from the very first day Ricky went missing, and it continued every day. And we wondered, why were we treating this way? Because we'd never had exposure to the police before. And the police would have had us believe that what happened with Stephen Lawrence and the institutional racism was an anomaly. It was a one-off. Things were being done better. They'd learned their lessons. They were putting policies in place. It wouldn't happen again. But unfortunately, Ricky's case happened, and the same behaviour, the same institutional racism happened, and that's why we were targeted. They didn't want people to know. They didn't want the public to know that actually what happened to Stephen Lawrence was still happening and is still happening. So it was easier to spy on us, to try and keep us quiet so we wouldn't expose them, rather than investigating the racist murder into Ricky's death and exposing us to that racism every single day of the investigation.
Absolutely awful stuff. This, of course, that's your book. Hold it up again, please, Sukhdev. And I thought it was interesting, Sukhdev, you were just commenting when Tish went off, Ricky Reel, silence is not an option. No, it absolutely is. Never. And we are still waiting for people to come forward and reveal what really happened to Ricky and who was responsible for it. And I thought it was interesting at the inquiry when you were being questioned, Sukhdev, when they started to talk about the Southall monitoring group, and there was almost a tone. There was a tone to it of, oh, but you tried to get other people involved as well. But as you pointed out, it was so important because you knew Suresh Grover, your MP was John McDonnell, and actually Southall Monitoring Group were picking up what the work that the Metropolitan Police should have done, right?
Yeah. I think they tried to criticize Suresh as well because his evidence was a couple of days before me. So the fact that there were two strong people standing beside me, with me, I think that's what feared them, and that's why the spying was almost on daily basis. And we are not saying that our case was the investigation was racially motivated. One of their police reports has also said, lots of police reports, but one of the police reports also highlight that this case has the potential to embarrass the police. And the next logical case after Stephen Lawrence would be the Ricky Reel case, and it's all in black and white.
100%.
So we are not the ones who are saying it. And then I went to a meeting where I'm always. Whenever I went to a meeting, Suresh is always with me. And on this one occasion when he wasn't, at the meeting, one of the supporters gave me a lift home. And, the journey must have taken about more than an hour and a half and dropped me here. And later, years and years later, we found out that he was an undercover police officer, the same police officer who was also involved in the Lawrence case. And they knew about this in the very beginning. I think they knew about it, I think it's 2014, or even before that in 1998 when it happened. But the police commissioner and everybody else kept it hidden because they kept on telling each and every person that don't worry about it. You are not directly targeted. The word they used is collateral damage. But we as a family proved that, giving us evidence in the court on 26th of November that we were directly targeted. There was no collateral intrusion. We were directly targeted. So we wait and see. But unfortunately, the officer who has targeted me is refusing to come to give his evidence.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
and he's just allowed to do that, is he? I mean, Tish, you're a solicitor. I know it's family law you're in, but he can just do that, can he? Refuse to come and give evidence?
Well, we've been told that he's too unwell to give evidence, but I would say, look at psychologically he's unwell, but look at the impact. Look at the impact on my mother and my family. We're traumatized. Yeah. We've lived it, and we can't recover that damage. Mum's lost a son, I've lost a brother. That's irrecoverable from. Yet we put that aside to come to court, relive the last 28 years, and give evidence to assist the inquiry. This officer is unwilling to be brave and to do that and to face up to the consequences of what he did.
Yeah.
Whilst we, the victims, once again, have to bring this. I have the responsibility of bringing this to the forefront.
But we also don't know whether it's his choice or somebody else's, whether it's somebody higher up in command doesn't want him to be on that stand answering those questions because it may reveal the complicity of others. And it's very interesting that there is that link to Stephen Lawrence because sadly, again, your family have had to go through an almost mirror image of what the Lawrence family did. And that was it. They started off by blaming Dwayne and Stephen for the attack against them. And then the police obviously turned on them, and it was left to the Lawrence to raise all the attention. And you've done the same thing. It's been left to the Reel family to raise awareness around Ricky. What do you want to say, Sukhdev?
I was asked the question at the inquiry about why did I set up the campaign? What was the reason for setting up the campaign? And my answer was, we set up the campaign to get justice because the police officers who are paid to do this work did not want to do it. So from day one, they thought about an Asian family, Black family, not worth the justice. And at that time, about 28 years ago, not many Asian women stood up and confronted the police. So because we were pointing out their mistakes, and because, the officer who was in charge of the investigation didn't want an Asian woman to ask questions, because every time I asked questions, his response was through my husband. So all in all, we did it. And by campaigning, we changed many of the policies and procedures of the police of the Metropolitan Police. We changed the missing persons policy, and because of this case, there is an album kept in Scotland Yard with known racist offenders, and we asked for change into the liaison officers policy, and it was pointed out that reconstruction should be done after every 7 days. All of this was not done because the police kept on saying we don't have the resources. So I am really, really angry that the resources that should have been spent on Ricky's case were spent on spying on us. There were reports, stupid reports, talking about my health. My health is deteriorating. So Mrs. Reel is getting weak. What was the point of, getting these reports? Why were they following us? We are not criminals, but they made me feel like a criminal.
Yes, yeah, it's truly atrocious, truly appalling. I'm totally in support of what you've done. I think it's quite phenomenal, given that you're a grieving family even now, because you still have not got the answers that you need. Are we any closer to finding out the truth about what happened to Ricky and anybody being arrested? Or is that almost impossible now because of the smoke screen that the police put up?
I think from the spying reports, the information was kept in a special branch file and was passed on to the commissioner, or maybe to the Home Secretary as well. So the case reached the highest level it could, and I think for them to back down is difficult. It will cause them embarrassment. And I have, in my closing statement, I did say that I don't trust the police officer. I don't think there is a police officer brave enough to investigate this case and deliver us justice. And I also said the reason we haven't got justice is because there was the officers who were investigating the case were also the undercover police officers.
I mean, Tish, it's shocking, isn't it, actually? Once you start to unpack what's happened, no wonder your mum was so upset there giving testimony, because that is like the weight of 3 decades of lies suddenly unraveling all at once. Tish, do you have any hope that justice can be seen for your family and for Ricky?
I think the sad truth is that because the police just thought this is an Indian family, they're not going to question us. So we're not going to give them the same level of justice we would give to somebody else. They didn't bother investigating the case, and that in any missing persons case, those first 24 hours are crucial. Instead of investigating Ricky's disappearance, instead of undertaking any forensic analysis when his body was found of his clothes or the scene, instead of watching CCTV, they destroyed it without ever viewing it. So that means that evidence is now lost to us forever, and it means that we can't revisit certain issues now that you can in other cases. And so that means that because they were racist towards us, because they were spying on us instead of investigating Ricky's death, our opportunity to get justice for Ricky and so many others like him is probably lost to us in reality. And that's not, and like Ricky, that's not something we can recover. And the police took that away from us 28 years ago. And I think it's important to know that this spying was happening on us. We were a grieving family, but it happened to others. It happened on people who supported us, like Suresh, like our MP, because they were supporting families coming together and demanding justice. The police would have us divided because we're weak on our own. But because we were coming together and we were supporting one another, people who was helping us, like John McDonnell, like Suresh, like organisations, came on. They were subject to police spying as well, because the police didn't like the fact that people were standing together to support one another, the way we still do 28 years later. And that's the legacy that has come out of Ricky's death and other deaths like him. And, we know that there were women, campaigners who the undercover police officers were in relationship. You can't call them
had children with.
They had children with them. They stole the identities of deceased children. So what happened to us was happening across the country at the same time. This was all collectively designed to stop challenges to the state, to expose the state for being what it was. It was racist. It was exceeding the rule of law routinely.
Yes, corrupt.
They just didn't want people to know. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And were it not for whatever is in the Reel family that has enabled you just to keep going, which is quite phenomenal and actually a real testament to Ricky, if there's anything at all, and you are a testament to him that you have refused just to let this go. Let me read you some of the comments. Lenticular Cloud says, Ricky's mum, you are a powerhouse. Yes, indeed you are, Sukhdev. I mean, you're phenomenal. I'm in awe of you, that you've never given up, even while dealing with this incredible grief. And Healing Guidance says, this is disgusting, the poor mother. And Robert says, justice for the young man. Marco says, this is so sad to watch. This poor mother having to fight from justice from these crooks we have in charge who are supposed to support us, not treat the bereaved families like criminals. And that's exactly what happened, was the bereaved family, rather than being assisted, were treated as the problem. But as they've outlined, they were treated as the problem because they were questioning the system. They were revealing the system for what it was. And yes, as the comments know, awful misogyny too. Yeah, you were subject to racism, to misogyny, this belief. And again, very stereotyping. Oh, women of Asian origin. Oh, they must be submissive. They must, they're going to lie down and take all this. Not at all. And it's been wonderful to see it. But do you ultimately think anybody is going to be held to account for what happened to you? Either of you to answer.
I hope so. I think the information about Ricky's killing will probably come from public, not from the police.
Yes.
Because every time you ask the police, I mean, we met the police commissioner, and last year we had another meeting, and we were told, quite bluntly, that our files are lost. So how could a big organization like that lose your files? Every time you confront them, they punish you. And the punishment included, first time when we were asking questions and all that. And because the police didn't get the word accidental death verdict, it was an open verdict. Later on, they punished us by the investigating officer who had retired to escape some sort of disciplinary action, took photos taken of Ricky. We didn't know that he subjected Ricky to another post-mortem. We received a letter saying, yes, post-mortem done, no organs removed. So after the inquest, because he didn't get the verdict he wanted, he contacted a reporter and said he wants to do an interview. She spent 4 hours with him, and he showed her the photographs.
These are the photographs of his post-mortem, where this investigating officer authorised the removal of Ricky's skin without the family's knowledge. And so he tried to get those published in a national newspaper to get retribution, because he was very upset that we had challenged him and that had led to disciplinary action. But like so many officers before him, he retired from the Met Police before he could actually be punished. So when you asked Sonia about accountability, that would require some faith in the police, that they would hold their own to account. And unfortunately, the police have done nothing over the last 28 years to lead us to believe that anything has changed and that they will hold their own to account. And in terms of the inquiry, that has several years to go, and we will judge by the outcome of that inquiry about whether they decide to take a stand. And that means not just confirming that the spying was deliberate and targeted, but that the institutional racism within the police force drove this.
Absolutely, and has acted as a blockage in order for you to be able to, one, grieve properly, because while you're dealing with that, you were put on the defense. Rather than being seen as victims, you were put on the defense. That doesn't enable you to go through the processes that somebody needs to, who's been through a situation like yours. So I think your situation is so heinous, but I do believe that ultimately it will help to change even more. I do believe that. But like you, unfortunately, Tish, I do have deep concerns because I deal with a lot of corruption and what's going on, certainly in terms of the Metropolitan Police. And it isn't only situations like this where police are just allowed to retire. There are situations where they are accused of child abuse and they're allowed to resign and retire while investigations are ongoing, which is not allowed. So we do know that they are marking their own homework as well. So all of these problems arise, obviously. I would like a final word from both of you today, what you absolutely want the public to know, and can we support you in any way?
I want the public to listen to our story, buy my book, read the story, it will tell you what we were like and what we have become, because our lives have changed so much. And personally, I don't really know who I am anymore.
Oh.
And because the spying and the police officer bringing me home, it has caused me nightmares, and I scream during the night, and I see eyes everywhere. I don't trust anyone. The trust. I used to be a happy-go-lucky mom who would invite anybody to come into the house. All right, let's have a cup of tea. Let's have this. And there was so much laughter in the house. That's all gone. That's all gone. And that's the damage that's been done. So I would like the public to help us, support us in any way you can by talking about this case, listening to other people. There may be people passing comments about what happened that night. It's really important for us to get justice. We need to be able to sleep properly, which we haven't done for the last 28 years. So please, please, please keep your ears and eyes open and let us know what you can do or what you have heard. We need to give justice. We need to give peace to Ricky and his family, which we haven't got. Thank you.
Absolutely. Tish?
You can write to your local MP and copy us in, and copy John McDonnell, who's our MP and who's been with us since day one. You can write to the Commissioner of the Police, copy us in and express your outrage. You can invite Mum to speak to any meetings with any organisations or individuals you think might have a means of helping us or supporting us. Anything you can do. There's nothing too small. Any gesture to a family like us who's still seeking justice after 28 years means a great deal.
I'm on Facebook, which I update it regularly, and anything that's going on, is updated. It's my Facebook is under Sukhdev Reel. Anybody can join and see what's happening there.
And the book that we've been talking about also is Ricky Reel, Silence is Not an Option. I will put a link in the description at the end of the show to it. You two take very good care of yourself. I wish there was a better outcome for you. I really do. But hopefully a higher order will take care of all of this in the fullness of time. Everybody, this is Sukhdev and Tish Reel, and they need justice for Ricky Reel. Take good care of yourself, both of you. Lots of love. Lovely to have you. Well, not lovely. I always wish it was under different circumstances, but I think you take my point. Take care, Tish. Take care, Sukhdev. Bye. Bye. No family should have to go through what they're enduring. No family. It breaks my heart that they're still having to deal with that. Absolutely obscene. Truly obscene. Right. Before we bring in our next guest, let me just go to, I think this story that I missed earlier, quite interesting, about really what is going to happen in terms of Keir Starmer, Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham, of course, currently is the mayor of Manchester. And it's been long known that Andy Burnham is being positioned to ascend the prime ministerial throne. And obviously Keir Starmer is as important and is as popular rather as a cup of cold sick these days. And so they are positioning Andy Burnham to take over. And it could just be a lot of kind of, gossip going on really. But I'm pretty certain that they're not going to go fully into 2026 with Keir Starmer. I think he's probably served his purpose up to this point. Also jockeying for position is Wes Streeting, the health secretary, and Angela Reiner, the former deputy prime minister. She's rumoured to be preparing challenges for Keir Starmer's job. And the thing is, it's irrelevant of whether they appear to be buddies or not. I mean, if you've ever met politicians, they are some of the most backstabbing scumbags I've ever encountered in my entire life. And that's putting it politely, frankly. So I'm not at all surprised that this is taking place. And they are really hoping that there will be a by-election, which will mean if Andy Burnham is fights a by-election and then he returns to the Commons, then he can mount his leadership campaign. That's kind of how they're intending to do it. And that's what whispers are saying, and we shall see. But I'm still waiting to see what's going to happen with the three men who, the three arsonists, alleged arsonists. We are still waiting for the live trial, which begins in the new year, to do with Keir Starmer's property and his car. How are you in the comments? How are you? Alien is not impressed. Burnham, another Marxist. Shaky is not impressed. Vanessa says all the very best, Sukhdev and Tish. Shug said, can't stand these people on YouTube that get excited over deformed gaining in the polls. Yawn. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Did anybody see that porn artist Bonnie Blue suddenly came out saying that she's a reformer? I'm so not shocked. I'm so not shocked. Somebody as obscene and degenerate as Bonnie Blue supports reform. There are no solutions in politics, says Shug, and I tend to agree with him. We've seen it all, been there, seen it, done it, haven't we? And the reality is another cup of cold sick, says Aurora. Not great thoughts, really, at first thing in the morning. But we are going to be talking about something altogether much more pleasant and in tune with nature. Synchronized Souls said the demon. Who's that? Bonnie Blue, the demon. And you know those girls, right? There's two of them, isn't there? Lily Phillips and Bonnie Blue. And I always say we really should be checking their backgrounds, because girls who have so little sense of themselves, so little respect, so little understanding about boundaries, quite often have abuse in their childhood. And the fact that their families in parts have come out supporting them being these porn stars tell me there may be issues within the family unit there. But I could be wrong, because I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist. Same theatre with different acts and actors, says Reba. I like Burnham, says Emma. I see him at the march. I hope he doesn't become PM. I'll have to dislike him. Is that how it works, Emma? I mean, one thing I will say about Andy Burnham is I once reported to him an attack. There were two Manchester police, and they attacked this guy at a petrol pump in Manchester. And I was sent the video, and I went to Andy Burnham, and he dealt with it on that day. And the cops were dealt with, they were taken off of duty, they were investigated. And so he did deal with it immediately. That's one of my few dealings with him. And yeah, there you go. So what's that? Is always and has been an opposition. I don't understand. Sailor Way, you having a conversation with somebody else in the comments, and I've missed the first part of it. Shug said there's no such thing as a good politician. Tend to agree. Right. Shall we bring in our next guest? I think we should. Let me just find all the details here. Here he is. And the first thing I want to say to him is, Oliver Cowmeadow, is that your real name?
Yeah, that is the name that I was born with, yes.
Absolutely love that. You are, of course, the founder of the Macrobiotics School in Devon, the International Macrobiotics School. You very kindly gave us some giveaways the other week, and Zara sends through videos, obviously, after the live cooking class. And so on my agenda this week is to cook the Wellington without the beef, because I don't eat meat. And I'm very much looking forward to it. It looks absolutely delicious. Wonderful. So thank you for being here with us. So tell us a little bit about your school, why you found it, what it's about, how it can help us. So give us a little sense of your own history. What brought you into this?
Yeah, okay. Well, I was 24 and in London when I was interested in medicine. I was interested in health. And then I came across the whole kind of Oriental medicine approach, Chinese medicine, shiatsu, and also macrobiotics, which a lot of people haven't heard of. It was a kind of 20th century kind of update of Oriental medicine to make it much more available to everybody. It's kind of simple to understand so that people can quickly learn about it and start applying it in their lives. Particularly eating well, balanced lifestyle, sometimes looking at emotions that are blocking, and really wanting to empower people to look after their own health. So this is what I've been doing for the last 45 years.
Wow.
And I just found it fascinating myself. I found it really useful in my own life, raising my own children. And I still feel very passionate about it because we're at this kind of turning point where in some ways, health of people in the UK and other developed countries is getting worse. And the solutions are really quite simple. And we've been teaching simple ways of cooking a balanced, plant-based, whole food diet, exercising, looking at our emotions, how to create deeper, fulfilling relationships for 40 years. And now Western science is completely backing up what we've been saying. that the healthiest way of eating is plant-based, whole foods, more home cooking, NHS, Heart Foundation, World Health Organization, all these big bodies are saying that this is the way to go. And
I'm just waiting for the meat eaters in the comments to get irate and angry with you, because obviously there's always such a resistance. And I just be clear, I'm not a born again non-meat eater, right? I don't eat meat, but I'm kind of like a live and let live, right? I'm not here to. So, but I am. Here we go. The first thing I see, right, is, oh, I've got somebody saying yes, plant-based, and somebody using a swear word, Oliver, at the suggestion of a plant-based diet, because it does have that impact on people, doesn't it? Again, people feel that they're losing something. But I think what's really interesting, first of all, you talk about how we have such a decrease in our health. I made a film called The Business of Cancer, and I talked about how we're not eating food anymore. We're eating food-like substances. And it's things that are shaped to look like food, to smell like food, colored to look how we find food to be attractive, all of these different things. But I think what I really enjoy about your approach is, and this can apply for anybody, even if you're a meat eater out there, I think what's interesting is you're very much in tune with nature. It's almost like a sort of back to basics approach. You look at the elements, you look at the seasons, you look at things that like local produce. All these things are important, aren't they?
They are, yeah. But I'll just kind of go back a little bit and talk about what does plant-based mean? It means eating mostly plant foods. It doesn't mean not eating any meat or animal foods at all. It just means that what the NHS advises, World Health Organization advises, is that something like 7/8 of our diet is made up of grains, beans, vegetables, seeds, nuts, fruits, etc., and that a small portion is made up of animal foods. Fish, chicken, eggs, meat, etc. So it's not a no-no diet. It's just a matter of balance.
Right.
And I think a lot of, when we go back 100 or 200 years to what people traditionally ate in different parts of Europe, still eat in Southern Europe, the Middle East, the Far East, most people were eating a plant-based diet, apart from people really living in the far north of Scandinavia, Canada, etc., where it's more natural to eat a higher animal food diet. Most cultures were eating a plant-based diet. In the last kind of 50, 60 years, modern, industrialized countries become richer, more meat, more dairy, more sugar, more rich food. And all the evidence is this is creating heart disease, many different forms of cancer, type 2 diabetes, arthritis, dementia, and so on. Most of these major illnesses, the scientific evidence is now very clear, is caused by eating a lot of animal food and also, as you say, a lot of highly refined and ultra-processed foods. So it's kind of a no-brainer. It's kind of a no-brainer to go back to eating a plant-based diet. And if, some people may be vegan, some people may eat a little meat, some people, personally, I eat more fish. So it's not a rigid approach, but it is definitely a lot healthier.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think we instinctively feel and know what is right, like in terms of our seasons, right? Because we don't necessarily want, a big hearty stew in the middle of July. We instinctively know that doesn't suit us. So we kind of already have the answers to a degree, don't we? And it's just, we seem to have been blocked. Everything is instant, isn't it? Instant food. Everything is available to us immediately. And so all of this has kind of got in the way. And it's almost like we've lost our way. How do we find our way back to knowing instinctively what is right for us?
Well, I think one of the big problems that I get, I've been giving individual dietary consultations for about 40 years. And back in the 80s, it was, well, how do you get off eating animal foods and sugar? And now so many clients are just in utter confusion because there's all this different information. We should eat paleo, we should eat meat, we should eat plant-based, we should eat vegan, and people are very confused. And it's partly because people are trying to use their heads to work out what is good. And really what we need to do is get, like you say, is get back to listen to our bodies. And it means eating something, observing how do we feel physically, emotionally, energy levels,
Yes.
etc. And then learning from that. Well, this food makes me feel worse. This food makes me feel better. So it's like, it's as well as having good information, what we're teaching here is, how people can listen to their own bodies and gradually feel for themselves what is going to give them good energy, what is going to create health, and also emotional balance. Because what's being realized now is that this big rise in depression, anxiety, ADHD, and other kind of emotional mental problems is partly caused by poor diet.
Has to be. It has to be. I mean, I still maintain the old adage that is, you are what you eat. That has to be a contributing factor. It simply has. And also, when we eat as well, and also recognizing, I think one of the things that you did, which I found really interesting, was you recognize the times during the day when we have energy and when we don't. Again, being very in tune with who we are. Can you talk me through that day when we're at good energy, peak energy, and is it the same for everybody?
Well, that's another thing, that everyone's health is different, and people find that different eating regimes work best for them. Some people like to have a good breakfast and lunch and then have a very small supper. Other people skip breakfast and feel quite okay and have more substantial lunch and supper. So it's partly a matter of finding out what pattern suits you. But what I'd say is that home cooking, which doesn't have to be expensive or take a lot of time, home cooking is really crucial, because we're taking good, wholesome foods, whether that's grains, beans, vegetables, or even meat or fish, and we're making it into really wholesome food without all the additives and sugar and so on. So it's a matter of deciding what time of the day you're going to cook your main meal. For a lot of people, it's the evening meal. Make a simple breakfast. At supper, you maybe cook extra food, so you've got some for your lunch next day. You can just warm it up. So it's a matter of getting into a rhythm of cooking and nourishing yourself. And of course, it's fun to go and eat out sometimes, select healthier foods. We all want to do that. But the crux of health is home cooking, which, as you know, is kind of going out of fashion a bit. People are eating so much prepared food. Okay, that's fine sometimes. We're not rigid, but really home cooking is the way to really optimize our health.
And there's loads of ways to do that as well. People do batch cooking as well if they have more time, on a particular day, and then they can freeze things up. So all those things are available to us. But also talk to me about the elements throughout the day. You talk about the 5 elements, don't you? Expand on that for me. And again, because I think, this is all about overall health and well-being, because your approach is very holistic. You're looking at the whole as opposed to everything in isolation, aren't you?
That's true, yeah. So, well, the 5-element theory is something that's come out of Oriental medicine several thousand years ago. And it's just observing over every daily cycle and monthly cycle and yearly cycle that we go through 5 different phases. So if we think about going through the year. Right now we're in winter. Nature is less active. The energy is kind of going down into plants, into roots. So it's natural for us as well to be less active. We need to take a break, see if we can step back a bit from the intensity of life.
Right.
Maybe not get overly excited about Christmas, or not spend a month planning, organizing, cooking. But this is a time for slowing down, more rest, more sleep. This is how we recharge our batteries. Springtime. This is the more the tree energy or plant energy. The energy is coming up. This is the time the birds are coming out, the animals are coming out, the plants are springing up. This is the time for us to spring forwards, start new projects. It's very easy to be active and start new things at this time. Summer, warmth, active time, insects, nature, very active, flowers flowering. So it's natural for us to be outside more. Our energy is more extrovert, more going outwards. We want to eat the local, what is growing at that time of year, the vegetables, the strawberries, the plants, more salads, because that is helping this energy. Come the autumn, the energy is starting to descend. Leaves are dropping, fruits and vegetables and root vegetables forming. So this is a time more for kind of coming in. It's interesting, this is the beginning of the academic year when people are beginning to study. This is a really good time to focus and study and be a bit more, our energy is becoming a bit more internal again. So if we follow that kind of cycle over the year, then in our activity and in our food, then we're more in balance with nature, and we're creating a better balance inside of us, and we're more likely to be in good health. If in the middle of winter we're trying to start new projects, be very energetic, and we're eating lots of summer foods, tons of fruit and salads, we're going to get cold and tired and depleted, for example.
Let me read you this. Reba says, 100% Oliver, follow our natural cycles with the seasons. We have forgotten that we are a part of nature. And I saw another comment about how much crap is in food. And that is part of the problem, isn't it? Because even some organic food now, I mean, we have to allow for all the chemicals that are being sprayed on the fruit and veg, much less what they're being shot through with. If you're eating chicken, God knows what they're putting in that these days. All of these things. So if you are operating on a budget, how can you eat healthily and attempt to avoid all of this extra stuff that the food industries are putting into food? I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it?
It is difficult. And I think there's two things. Now, first of all, it's just the kind of food that you select. So what we're keen on is more plant-based and eating more whole grains, brown rice, having porridge for breakfast, using beans and pulses and tofu and things made from them for our protein, vegetables, seeds, nuts. That's the choice that makes the biggest difference to our health. And that is really quite cheap. You can, if you buy a bag of porridge, that will make enough porridge for one person for a month.
Wow.
It's grains and beans are cheap food. They're really cheap food. If you want to reduce your chemicals, well, growing your own, if one is able to, of course, is good. And of course, it'd be nice to be able to get mostly organic, or at least more naturally, local foods. In order to really cut down on those chemicals.
It is difficult, though. I find it very difficult for many people to stay healthy in this world, because the options available to us are, it is, the instant food, instant meals, all of that. Some of the worst things, processed food, surely, and like fizzy drinks and all of these things have to be like right high up there in terms of detrimental to our health. What do you consider some of the worst things that are out there that are detrimental to our health in food wise?
Well, I think sugar is one of the main offenders. It's in almost everything. You buy tinned fish and it's in there. You buy meat sauce and it's in there. It's not just in all the desserts. And as science is showing, sugar, first of all, it depletes your immune system. Last few days, we've been hearing about the flu epidemic. And what is such a shame is that the governments and medical establishment did not learn from COVID, from the COVID epidemic, that certain people are much more likely to get viral infections, including COVID and flu.
I mean, you and I may disagree on a major level about the COVID scenario, because I've done so much research into it now that the grand scale of deception was just incredible. So I'm not sure that you and I are coming from the same place as that on that.
Well, we may be, actually, but I just want to make, like, within all of that, there are lots of very interesting things to talk about around COVID. Just the one point I'm making now is that what was found during COVID is that certain people had much higher rates of catching COVID and dying from COVID. People who had type 2 diabetes, people who are very overweight, people who had existing lung or heart or circulation problems. So these are all things which a more plant-based diet and healthy lifestyle can really, really help with. And that means we can really reduce our chances of catching colds, flu, and COVID. And why isn't the government putting out, as well as get vaccinated, which is one approach? Why aren't they putting out this?
Oh, we definitely aren't coming from the same place. I can see that. Do you know what?
Hold on, just
let me just say this very quickly, because we have to be careful because we're on YouTube, right? But it really surprises me that somebody who has such an understanding of health appears to be promoting government propaganda. Have I got that wrong?
No, I'm not promoting vaccination, but I'm just open to it in some situations. And the point I'm making is, well, I mean, the whole ethos of the school is helping people look after their own health. And one of the things we can do is greatly strengthen our immune systems. I remember before I got into Oriental medicine and macrobiotics, every couple of years, flu, week in bed, 2 or 3 weeks recovering. In the last 45 years, I haven't had flu once. So why would I want to have a flu vaccine or some other kind of vaccine? Because what I'm doing in my daily food and lifestyle is strengthening my immune system so that I'm much less likely to catch infections. So that's my point. Why isn't the government and the medical establishment putting out how we can all strengthen our immune systems?
Completely agree with you there. And I actually did say that during C19. Why were they not more focused on making us healthier human beings so that we can resist anything, whether man-made or created or whatever, so that we can resist it better? But they're never interested in actual health. They're interested in selling us sort of health, allopathic medicine. That's what they're interested in selling us. And so
Yeah.
I take your point is that a good diet can give us that good basis to keep us healthy anyway, right? So I think on that, at least, we definitely agree. I definitely agree with where you're coming from in terms of being in tune with nature, the importance of as clean food as possible. My only concern would just be that I don't believe a word that's coming out of government, not at all, and certainly to do with C19, because I saw it very much as a psyop on the people that they use taxpayer money for. But that might be a conversation for another time, Oliver. Well, that might be.
I think I would agree with an awful lot with what you're going to say, but I just didn't want to go down into that kind of...
Got you. Fair point. Fair enough. Leave us with a good health tip. If somebody was just starting today on a path, they decided that they want to overhaul their eating, their lifestyle, what would be a good way to start? A simple way to start, something not too difficult for people to incorporate into their lifestyles.
Well, you could check out our website for some recipes. It's really eating more whole foods, more whole grains, beans, vegetables, and less meat, dairy, and sugar. So we're coming up to Christmas. Find some nice sugar-free or low-sugar recipes, Christmas cakes, puddings, mince pies. We make, sugar-free mince pies. See if you can really, really cut down on sugar. Would be a main tip.
What about water? Water is so vital, isn't it? Good water.
Water is important. Yep. There's so many different elements to health, and water is one of them. And if you have poor water quality, I would recommend getting some kind of water filter.
Right.
Evidence coming out.
Got you. Well, you look like the picture of health, Oliver. So I think you're walking the talk beautifully. You really are. And so listen, thank you for being with us today. Thank you for giving away the prizes. We very much appreciate it. Are you celebrating Christmas?
Yes, absolutely. I've got quite a lot of family coming here, so we're going to have a nice family occasion. Lots of good food. Yep.
Merry Christmas to you, everybody. This is Oliver Cowmeadow, and that really is his name. Yes, it is indeed.
Could I just say that in January, I'm starting a short online course series, which is on holistic nutritional therapy, which is what we also run training courses here for people to become nutritional therapists. So I'm running a short course in January, which is for self-help, and I'd really like to offer some free places. on that course, if that's something that we could arrange.
We'd love that. Absolutely. We should do that. When are you starting in January?
Now you've got me 27th.
Oh, perfect. So we can talk about that in the new year. We'd love to give away some places. We would. And Jeannie said, thank you for bigging up the healthy plant-based lifestyle and no animals. And Michelle says, thank you, Oliver. And Drumstick says, thank you, Oliver. And many say, thank you, Oliver. Indeed. Thank you, Oliver. For cheers, Oliver, says Jacqueline. And Nin said, I haven't ever had flu or even got sick my whole life. What is your secret? That is quite incredible statement, isn't it? Quite incredible statement. Lovely to have you with us, Oliver. Do take good care of yourself. Merry Christmas to you. And yes, we will absolutely give away free places in the new year. Take care. Lovely to have you with us. Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Right. Okay, people. Well, I agree with Oliver for most things. Yes, I do. Not entirely. I mean, everything that went on over the last 5 years. I'm still waiting for people to be strung up for that, frankly. I will never forget what they did to us, ever. But I did like Oliver. Thought very nice fella. And I will be making that Wellington without the beef. Yes, I will indeed. Right. What to talk about? I want to talk about this. I did mention it briefly on Friday's show, and it's Jerry McCann once again been given the microphone like he always is, and to talk about how the family was hounded by press, because what they're calling for is the second part of the Leveson inquiry. And a number of people wrote to me and said, isn't it interesting that Brian Leveson's name is all back up again? He's the one advising about the no jury trials, and now they want to have the second part of the Leveson inquiry. The Leveson inquiry, the first part was to do with the culture and ethics of the newspapers, of media, and actually the relationships between like Murdoch's lot and politicians. Absolutely bought people. And so what we had is Jerry McCann playing the victim again. He always plays the victim. And it was very much about how his family was subjected to being monstered by sections of the press. He said that media repeatedly interfered with the investigation into his daughter's disappearance, into Madeleine's disappearance in 2007. And he believes that the press hindered the search for her. Actually, Jerry, I believe that whatever that search was, what did you guys do? I mean, you want to talk about the press, you want to blame everybody else for the disappearance of your daughter, but I suspect the truth is much closer to home. And the reason that I have an image of both Madeleine and Caroline Flack on here is because Caroline Flack's mum has also signed this letter. So Kate and Jerry McCann are among more than 30 people, including Caroline Flack's mum. And they've signed a letter calling on Keir Starmer to resume the Leveson inquiry. Actor Hugh Grant has also got involved. And the thing is about the McCanns is that they wanted to be able to take public money, taxpayer money, and essentially for us all to shut the F up. That's how they want to do it. They made Madeleine's disappearance public. They got the media involved themselves. They sidled up to the media. They used the media. Jerry was even forced to admit how they allied with The Sun in order to put pressure on then Prime Minister David Cameron to launch an investigation into first of all, into the Portuguese police investigation, and then into an investigation into the disappearance of Madeleine. And I mean, 13 years later, that was about 2012, and that happened about 13 years later. They're still on it. They're not looking to fold Operation Grange anytime soon. At least 14 million is in the hole. That's all that we can account for, but there'll be more that's been spent. And they're not looking to close it anytime soon, because when you close an inquiry like that, that's when information has to be made public. And the rash of FOIs that will greet the closing of it will be ginormous. But I'm really quite sick and tired of the most famous child neglectors around, which is the McCanns and their friends. They neglected their children. According to their own story, they neglected their toddlers to go off and have dinner and have their drinks. And I'm really sick and tired of being told that we should do things better by people like them. They failed parenting 101, and they're out here telling us that we should have, a better press, that they shouldn't be monstered. But the fact is, people like the McCanns, who have never been held fully to account to what happened to the disappearance of their daughter. At the very least, they should have been charged with neglect, at the very least, but they weren't. And so they have been allowed to navigate this narrative, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm so over it. And that Jerry talked about how we put our morals aside when we teamed up with The Sun. Said there was a front page letter published in The Sun, and the then Prime Minister David Cameron ordered the review. And that is how it happened. And it was because The Sun were threatening to put Theresa May on the front page for every day for 30 days. And Kate and Jerry McCann wanted that inquiry, wanted the Operation Grange, because, well, one, it becomes an ongoing investigation. And two, it makes accountability much more difficult. Three, it lends weight to their narrative that the Portuguese police investigation failed. The Portuguese police investigation, which found that they believed that Madeleine had died in apartment 5A, the holiday apartment, and the cadaver dogs determined that, or they at least determined that there were blood spats behind the sofa, and blood spats that largely correlated with the DNA of the McCanns and Madeleine McCann, and that then was lost at the Forensic Science Service, and that then closed down. There's been so much phooey that has taken place around this, but the last thing any of us need, and certainly people who know this story, the last thing any of us need is to be lectured to by Jerry McCann. That's the very last thing. And it just absolutely infuriates me. And it also infuriates me that they always piggyback on the back of people who are genuinely traumatized. And Caroline Flack's mum is genuinely traumatized. Her daughter was harangued by the police. There was an image that was shown in The Sun, filthy The Sun. There was an image shown that claimed that the blood on her in this image was of her boyfriend. It turned out to be hers. And her mum said that was the main thing, I think, things like that led to her suicide, because she was portrayed as having abused her boyfriend, but the blood was actually hers. And I think that the way that they went after her, The Sun and the tabloids, was absolutely deplorable. And I've seen this before when the McCanns have just piggybacked on the back of real kind of like genuine grief and sorrow that has been being experienced. And that is not to say that Kate and Jerry McCann have not experienced grief and sorrow. That's not to say that. But it's to say that I'm so sick and tired of them controlling the narrative that doesn't stand up. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny. And it's just annoying. What was that, Gray? Sonia, you jumped forward twice on Oliver when it was clear he wasn't offside re-jab and was just being cautious. You let your own sensitivity bias override, not us. No, I don't think so, Gray. It was his framing of the words that I thought were problematic. I think we have to be really careful how we describe things these days. And I think that in reference to C19, we shouldn't be necessarily following narratives put out by the NHS or WHO. And Oliver was quoting both of them, and both of them are captured. So I think I was well within my rights to make those statements. And I think that my viewers would absolutely appreciate me doing that for the most part. So, yeah. Yeah, but he took it in good stead. And actually what he was letting me know was that in many respects regarding that, we're probably more alike than I thought. I just thought some of his wording was a bit problematic, because what it does is some of that, when you say some of that wording, it actually backs up the narrative. And I'm not about backing up a narrative if it's got more holes than a colander. That's who I am. That's what I'm about. Anyway, the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, has ruled out a second phase of the Leveson inquiry. Simple stuff. Ruled it out. And so there you are. And Jerry McCann should be grateful he wasn't prosecuted, much less trying to silence those of us who ask questions about the disappearance of the world's most famous missing child, and whom multiple countries have funded police investigations for. The entitlement that we should keep giving hard-pressed taxpayer money to the investigation and still, as I say, shut the F up is off the scale. Not on my watch, mate. Not on my watch. And I see that they are targeting children in an urgent NHS vaccine drive to curb a super flu epidemic before Christmas. And I noted on X that the longer game, a regular viewer, good morning to you, said, just had my second blanket email from my kids' school pushing the flu jab, or as they call it, the painless and harmless nasal spray. But that's not all. They then go on to peddle the lie. That button goes on. I have to be careful because, again, we're on YouTube and they have their medical misinformation policy still. Boaty said schools shut here last week due to flu. What about all the other missing children? Yes, I got you. And so deeply concerned about the targeting of children. And it's really interesting that they're now saying, and it reminds me of the similar lie that they trotted out during C19, but they're now saying that in the northeast of England and Yorkshire, the number of patients in England with flu is the highest on record. Highest on record. They claim that it's 50% higher this time than this time last year. Plus, it's 10 times higher than in 2023. And they say about 95% of hospital beds are already occupied. And I've seen media articles saying we're running out of flu jabs, but even though they're giving away free, they're not free. They're not free. You really do pay for them. But even though they're giving away free flu jabs, there's only a 50% take up at the moment, but they're claiming they're running out. And all of it it's the same mad philosophy and mentality and propaganda that they used around C19, and that is create this idea that there is a lack. And you remember at the beginning, it was like, we've got a lack of PPE, we've got a lack of jabs. Oh my God, who are we going to give it to? They do that. And then it creates in people this rush to get it. And that's what they did. But, you know, a good diet goes a long way. But there's nothing wrong with your body having a good clear out as well. We should be doing that, okay? The body should be doing that. But the continued targeting of children is absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Disgusting stuff. Sheep gonna sheep, says Jacqueline. I see. Is that right, Mr. Mensah? Interesting. Right. And that story that's emerging from Hollywood overnight, kind of weird. Director and actor Rob Reiner, right, and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, found dead at their home in Brentwood, which is in LA. Couple's bodies were discovered by their daughter, Romy Reiner, at approximately 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon. Cause of death, while official autopsy results are pending, law enforcement sources report the couple suffered multiple stab wounds. The Los Angeles Police Department is investigating the deaths as a homicide. Multiple reports indicate that their son, Nick Reiner, is a person of interest and was being questioned by investigators. Rob Reiner, of course, and many people are doing tributes online to Rob Reiner saying, I didn't agree with his politics, but I liked his movies. And he had loads of movies, including When Harry Met Sally, A Few Good Men, Stand By Me, probably being one of my favorites that he actually did. Spinal Tap director, he did do that as well in 1984. Sailor Way said, my body's still having a good clear out after that tin of beans. Got you. Kevin said, Irish coffee is good for my health. Certainly keeps my spirits up, I'm sure. Is that proper Irish coffee, though? It's got to be proper, right? Face nappies have been proven to do all. I know. The thing is, when I see people with this on, I immediately think they failed the intelligence test. Because you are not doing proper due diligence or research if you're wandering around with one of those things on your gob. No, you're not. Okay, so yeah, I'm sure there'll be much more that will come out about Rob Reiner, but that's weird stuff, right? And remember, on Friday, we had Operation Talla, very interesting, with Catherine McBean joined us. More information is still coming out. Operation Talla being a national directive not to take police reports of problems with the C19 jab. And that's obviously very curious development. And it was admitted in an email. We have not been formally recording numbers of attempts to follow this process across the country. Our latest assessment shows that it is still occurring. It would appear that the guidance to not record has been a success, as only one additional report has been created. Incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. So that was Friday's show. Please do look it up. Some people say that it's, you know, not the smoking gun that they think it is. But I think it has legs. It makes a lot of sense to me because the fact that there was a national directive not to accept reports to do with the jab is a problem, right? Is a problem. The fact that the police council was gatekeeping FOIs is a problem. So as one organization that these directives were coming from, they were gatekeeping replies. It's a problem. Yes, Stephen, some people still trust MSM, in particular my generation boomers. Is it in particular? I don't know. Right. Also, I heard from the lovely Liz Davies. Liz Davies, you may or may not know, she was absolutely integral in exposing a lot of the abuse that was happening in Islington. She's a whistleblower, former social worker. She said she put a comment on my podcast last night and then it was removed. I didn't remove it. I don't know who did, but it went. And all she was doing was adding links to the Islington Survivors Network, which had more information on Abraham Jacobs, filthy, disgusting paedophile priest and social worker, and also more information on Operation Circus, which Operation Circus was the police investigation that was led by Trevor Lloyd Hughes, who was said to have killed himself because he was going to be busted by the News of the World for being a pedo. And he was leading the investigation into, quote unquote, what they used to call rent boys in Piccadilly Circus. So very managed and very handled there. But Liz was attempting to put some links, and I will put them in the description at the end of the stream. And also on Spotlight on Abuse, I put both those links, I believe, in the description in my film Paedophiles in Parliament. But Spotlight on Abuse is absolutely amazing. The work it's done over decades of cataloguing what's taken place, and Islington Survivors Network, which is extensive. There were so many children abused at Islington, not just by older people, but also peer-on-peer abuse as well. Awful stuff. Awful stuff. Is that right, Fun Times? YouTube frequently removes links to things that go against the narrative, even though they're not against community standards. Well, I thought it was weird that Liz's comment was removed. Really weird. Was that what it was, Greg? YouTube doesn't allow people to post comments with active hyperlinks. Perhaps that's what it was. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Happened to you as well, does it? Did it? Right, got you. Right. Let me go to this. This is an incredible... Listen, let me show you an inspirational picture. Let's get a little bit inspired, should we? Let's get a bit inspired. This is incredible. Let me just find it. It's on here somewhere. Monday Images. This is from Sean. Sean, are you in the comments? I had to double check with Sean that this was an AI, right? People... Sean is a photographer, Sean Whitfield, and he said, I took about 20 photos of the moon on the 5th of December. I noticed the magpies taking off, but didn't realize I had captured this one. Obviously, he's zoomed in, it's closer, but it's a real photo bombing. Look at that. Incredible. I absolutely love that image, Sean. I love it. And as I say, I had to write Sean saying, are you pulling my leg? But no, he had managed to capture that. It's an awesome photo, Mr. Mensah. I love it. It is amazing, Shin. Absolutely amazing. Sean is a great photographer. Really great. Thank you for sharing that with us, Sean. We love things like that. We need things like that to inspire us because there's so much uninspiring, awful stuff around us. Randy, let me tell you about the Crow family, right? I've been looking into, are you familiar with crow courts? Crow courts are fascinating, right? Now you've mentioned crows. I'm just going to talk about this briefly because it's very, really interesting. So if a crow does something bad, i.e. attacks a baby crow, you know, somebody's child, or takes food, or goes off with somebody's crow girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, they have a crow court, and crows gather around together and they essentially peck the bad crow to death. Sounds a bit like Sharia courts, doesn't it? But that is a crow court, and it's a known thing. And I watched a few videos about it, and it's absolutely incredible stuff. They essentially, once they have decided that somebody is a baddie and has to go, they will peck them to death. You never see a baby crow, says King. Indeed. So crows are very smart. Yeah, Drumstick. I mean, sometimes you have to wonder, like, I mean, because there are some people in society who simply they just can't function in society, and so obviously, and that they're kind of like serial murderers and pedophiles, and these people can't function in society. And what do? I don't believe in capital punishment, but I do think that we have so many islands out there. I do think that we should consider putting some of these people on islands. Let the pedos take each other out. Do their own crow court. Yes, Jeannie, it's called crow court for real. It is. Humphrey said, true, my cat caught a crow and got swooped on by the flock. Yeah, they move together. They move as an army. It's really interesting. Is that right, Sam? A group of magpies are called tidings. I'm learning some things today. I've seen the crows fighting with hawks and buntings. Do not mess around with a crow. Do not mess around with a crow. And let's bring to our second competition. Lovely Anita, again, multiple prizes. Lovely Anita says, I am a vegan and animal rights activist of over 40 years. I routinely try to do random acts of kindness in any way I can, which manifests in being proactive for animals and people on many levels. I've always been one of life's doers, never a spectator. And in my pagan journal, my mission statement page is called A Life Well Lived on Planet Earth. Like you, I am on this earth, but not of it. I often say that, don't I? When my mission has been accomplished, I will return to the source. Got you. But before then, I do what I can for my fellow furry friends and man and humans. That said, I'm happy to donate the following to your Prezi treasure chest. And it's a lot. So Anita is offering 2 bags of cruelty-free products such as soaps, no parabens, non-animal tested stuff, herbal smudge wands. So 2 nice bags, first of all. 2 nice bags. Then Anita is also offering 2 free tarot readings of up to 30 minutes. She's a tarot reader. And then the final 2 prizes the final 4 prizes that she's offering, very generously so, but you have to be based in the northwest of England for these prizes, because she is also a pagan pet celebrant. So she does pagan pet funerals. And she's offering 2 free sessions to her Beginner's Intuitive Tarot Psychic Development Workshop. But again, you have to go there in person. So it probably will need to be somebody who's close by her in northwest of England. And she's also offering 2 free pagan pet funerals. And again, in the northwest of England. So let's break this down. If you want to be in with a chance of winning one of the 2 bags of cruelty-free goodies, then, and again, all of them, write to me at soniapoulton@sky.com by 6 p.m. Tuesday GMT. If you want to be in with a chance of winning the 2 bags, put bags in the subject. If you want to be in a chance with winning the tarot readings, put tarot in the subject. And if you want to be in with a chance of winning one of the places on the workshop, put workshop. But again, you should be based in the northwest unless you're willing to travel. And finally, if you want to be in with a chance of winning a pagan pet funeral, then put pagan pet or pet funeral in the subject matter. So a lot of stuff that dear Anita is giving away there. And she finishes by saying, to thine own self be true always. Indeed. Anita, thank you so much for your generosity. Indeed, Reba, what a lovely gift. Purple Rosie said, tarot is channeling demons. I'm a tarot reader. I actually got this card this morning, which is my own card, Strength. It's a Leo card, and I got it, my weekly card. And so I don't believe for a second it's channeling demons, but I do understand that there are some people who have a problem with it. Put your name and address on a stamped addressed envelope. Oh, those were the days, DJ Marcus, and those were the days. Last week, just to say, I went to, anybody been to ABBA Voyage? That is one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had. I really enjoyed it. This is where they have avatars for ABBA. So all the 4 members, they appear as these like lifelike digital versions of themselves. And it was created using motion capture from their performances. And it was really amazing. And also really, I mean, perhaps it might be, people of a certain generation who, although actually very mixed in age, people there, holograms. It was wonderful. David is concerned about pagan funeral if Kitty is religious. That's the kind of humor I can get with David. I actually, lenticular cloud, I use tarot for meditation. That's exactly what I use it for. I don't use it for fortune telling or anything like that. I use it for psychology, and it works beautifully for me. And I loves it. I do. Do you? Wywer is 33 and loves ABBA. Do you know what? It was absolute classic, but I cried during them singing Chiquita. You know, Chiquita. Yeah, was it? Yeah, Chiquitita. No, Chiquitita. That's it. Wish the show would come to Cornwall. But it is odd. It does feel a bit odd to have them all kind of restored to their former youthful glory, and then an image of them comes out at the end as they are now. But it's really quite amazing. It was a purpose-built arena. It's now in its 3rd year, and there's a real 10-piece band which performs alongside the avatars. But it was just kind of whoa. It was just kind of like mind-blowing. And I went with my daughter and we danced and we sang and it was wonderful. And I loved it. I'm that kind of person. Just to say, I've been putting off doing a Friday investigation into the court case surrounding fake Madeleine. But I am now getting some indication that I may be able to cover that this Friday. Now, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting, but I'm hopeful that I may get that information. Now, if that is the case, that I can cover it on Friday. That means the Q&A, which I'd scheduled for Friday, will be on Monday's show. But I won't know until either this afternoon or tomorrow, if that's possible. I hope so, because I'd like to be able to cover that story before the end of the year. That's what I'd like to be able to do. And always, as always, thank you, donators. Thank you to Rosalind Dempsey. Thank you to C Scotland, to Alan Ford, to Ulrich Curry, to Susan Richardson, to F Young, and to Peter Birch. Thank you always and forever. I appreciate you. And a reminder that Bob Moran's new show with Tanya Edwards, the comedian who was on with us recently, Bob's dad, Pedants Revolt, they're doing a live recording tomorrow night, December the 16th, at the Backyard Comedy Club in London. And you can contact the venue or online to get tickets. So good luck with that, kids. I hope that goes well. And I received a Christmas card. This might surprise some people. From a man that I covered the other week and have covered often, because the conviction against him is so shaky, but it's highly doubtful at this stage whether the British establishment are prepared to look at it again. It's from Jeremy Bamber. And it says, to Sonia, thank you. Just saying Merry Christmas. See you in the new year. Jeremy is being very hopeful indeed. But thank you so much for your card. I believe that is a shaky conviction. It is highly likely that, and the police realize this now, there was a call that had access inside the farmhouse when Jeremy was still outside with police, and there were people alive inside. And the police have done everything they can to cover up this case and not reveal the truth of it. Stephen says, lovely card. Sonia, happy Yule, yours, says Alien. Happy Yule indeed. And I'm going to end with a viewer's email. Dear Sonia, I don't want to sound like the Grinch. You already do. That's the weird thing when we say that, right? I don't want to sound like the Grinch, but I know I will. I used to love Christmas. Or am I remembering a time that didn't really exist? So it was good. It's interesting, isn't it, to reflect on that? A time when it was less about being stressed or being a perfect host or spending time with people you don't want to and getting into debt. See, I told you I would sound like the Grinch. I want to return to a simpler time, but I fear it is already too late. And so I will begrudgingly take part in festivities. What do you do for Christmas? Love, Annette from Bristol. Well, first of all, just to say, at this time of year, yes, of course, it can get extremely stressy. The sense that people have to get everything just right. I used to be that nutter, right? I used to cook for lots and lots and lots of people. And I would be that nutter, this when I still ate meat, who would cook 3-4 meats for the main meal, as one example. And I always like to make sure that the cutlery was all perfectly beautifully matching and beautiful. Everything was beautiful on the table and the presentation was perfect. And I would get incredibly stressed about it. And I would always overspend, and not anymore, not doing that. Because things can be so much better stripped back and much more natural and in touch. So this year, what I'm doing is what I did last year, and that is I'm going to spend it with my loved ones. We will be going to Cotswolds at one stage to see our family. We will be spending time. We're going to be going out for a series of wonderful lunches and dinners this week, which I'm very much looking forward to kick off celebrations with dear friends, with my daughter's grandmother, people that we love and want to spend time with. And my thing has always been people before profit anyway. And I think that the over consumerism of Christmas is a spoiler. I think that simple homemade gifts can mean so much. My daughter gave me this incredible album of just an album of us, and that wasn't last year, it was the year before, but absolutely wonderful, and I loved it. Thank you, Howling Woodsman, who has enjoyed the show. Keep up the good work, because the most important thing about Christmas depends on who you ask. Obviously, not everybody celebrates Christmas. I celebrate Christmas from a cultural perspective rather than a religious perspective. Obviously, the idea is it's the celebration of Jesus Christ for Christians, and the idea is to emphasize love, hope, generosity, community spirit. And the thing is, regardless of whether you subscribe to religion or not, I often find that around this time of year, people are much nicer in general. And there's a sense of wanting to spend quality time with people, but also don't do anything that you really don't want to do, right? We should really now start learning. It's one thing to compromise, to have Christmas lunch with your in-laws because it will make your partner happy, it will make your children happy, it brings everybody together. But it's quite another to make a compromise to have lunch with people who aren't good to you the rest of the year round. So you have to weigh out the pros and cons of it, right? Sometimes we have to bite the bullet and do what other people want from us rather than what we want, but not if it is so much at our own cost and at our own detriment. So we have to be careful. Kath does it for the kids. Crafty Kim says, all my presents are handcrafted. Yes, Shug loved watching mine open presents when they were young. All of that. I still give my daughter a stocking and she's 28, right? But I think most of all, and I completely get your point. And there is a sense where we can reflect back on our childhood Christmas. So it was much nicer then and everything. But life is so short. And I've been reminded of that so much over the last 5 years with the loss of 2 of my siblings. And I just think just kind of enjoy this moment as much as you humanly can and with people you love, and not to put too much unnecessary stress on you. And don't generate more bills for yourself. Don't ring up a credit card. None of that is necessary. That's consumer pressure more than truth. Honesty about our relationships and friendships is vital, even if we have to pull away from some. It's true, KR. DJ Markson can't get into it at all this year. Season of joy, and just with my little family, like yourself, going out for lunches and family dinners of choice, says Michelle. Got you. You're welcome, Colin. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Right. So, of course, I always like to put this up at the end, which is, of course, a thank you to all my wonderful patrons. So really, Annette, I think the bottom line is this, and that is stop putting so much pressure on yourself. OK, that this period is for you to enjoy as well. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a religious festivity. It can also be a cultural one. And, you know, it's very much a cultural one for me. And I've moved away from all the kind of politics. I'm really not interested in people banging on online that something no longer says Christmas pie or whatever. I just don't care about any of that stuff at all. That just draws us into ever decreasing circles and absolute nonsense. And I really want to see this as the season really of like being together with loved ones, about giving to loved ones, whether that's time. It doesn't have to be a monetary gift. It doesn't have to be a gift other than the gift of yourself. And also about the fact that this offers us a period. And I really like that period, that in-between period between Christmas and the New Year. I find it a really reflective time where I can reflect back on what happened over the last year and kind of prepare for the next year. And I find that really a spiritual time. And are you sentimental? Are you? I'm seeing less Christmas lights up, less buzz year on year. It's all by design. They're attempting to remove Christmas, but nobody has the power to do that. Nobody has the power to do that. If you decide, my brother used to decorate, my dear brother Jez is no longer with us. He used to decorate his house like from top to bottom. And one of my friends Shas, she said that who needs a TV when you can go visit Sonia's brother's house at Christmas, right? And he did all that himself. He designed some of the decorations. He carved out sledges, all manner of things. Greg said, I gave a gift of myself last Christmas, but the police were called due to where I tied the ribbon. Oh, naughty. The greatest gift, Aurora, is your love and your time. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. And I hope Boaty is all right. I'm hearing people saying so sorry. Hope everything is all right there. Lots of love to you all, always in the chat. Our town centre Christmas tree is pathetic. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that, Humphrey. But just celebrate it yourself. Forget what everybody else is doing, right? Forget whether they are letting us down or whatever they're doing, right? It's what comes from your heart. Because I think Christmas is very much something that's in the heart. And he did it in love. He did, absolutely. I'm happy. It's like Xmas all year, says Vanessa. Lovely to hear it. I'm just going to read a quote. And that is, Christmas is a season not only of rejoicing, but of reflection. And I think that there's some truth in that. I really like the reflection involved in the Christmas period. But I think most important of all, don't beat yourself up. If you don't want to go out and socialize with people, don't. It is, after all, just another day. It's important to remember that as well. And obviously, a massive part of the drive is a consumerist drive because they just want us to spend, 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 spend. Randy bought a frozen duck, going to cook it on the 24th of December. I'm happy. I just don't celebrate it. Oh, I got you. Right. Okay. Anyway, I love you all. I will see you on Friday. It might be Madeleine McCann story. It might be questions and answers. But either way, still keep your questions and answers coming in because we will definitely do it before the end of the school year, as in the wake up school year. Thank you for being here. Sorry, I'm hearing that people have lost their loved ones. Very sorry about that. Very painful. This period of time can be extremely painful. One of our viewers wrote in to me who had suggested the George Michael investigation that I did a little while ago. And what he was saying was this is a very painful period of year for George Michael fans, for example, because George was found dead, obviously, on Christmas Day. So whatever Christmas is to you, but lots of love to you all, truly, lots of love to you all. And I will see you Friday. Take good care of yourself.